The Supreme Court has affirmed the financial autonomy of Nigeria's 774 local governments. In its judgment on Thursday, a 7-member panel of the court unanimously upheld the suit brought by the federal government to strengthen the independence of local governments in the country. A member of the panel, Emmanuel Ajim, who delivered the court's lead judgment, held that the local governments across the country should from Thursday receive their allocations directly from the Accountant General of the Federation. The new arrangement ordered by the Supreme Court empowers the Accountant General of the Federation to bypass the state government and the monthly disbursement of federal allocations to the local government. The local government in Nigeria is Nigeria's third tier of government, the level of government closest to people at the grassroots. In the meantime, diverse reactions have trailed the recent Supreme Court judgments which granted full financial autonomy to local government areas in the country. The judgment, instituted against state government by federal government, now empowers direct payment of monthly allocations into the accounts of local government councils, a deviation from the joint account procedure practice in the past and empowered by Constitution of Nigeria. Our correspondent, Marvelous Obomano, tells us more.
The judgment by the Supreme Court has brought an end to several decades-long controversy over the funding of local government areas, especially in the light of releases from the Federation account. The court ruled that payment by the Federation Allocation Accounts Committee should henceforth be paid directly to local government accounts, a deviation from the previous joint accounts payment as prescribed by the Constitution. While this has been abused in the past by state governors, many say the judgment will make the local governments more effective and empower them to bring development to the grassroots.
Democracy cannot be entrenched in all the 774 local governments in Nigeria. Our people cannot see rapid development. So we just want to thank God Almighty for giving us a president like Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has had the courage to take this step by coming to the proper place to say, let the proper interpretation be made to give life to the third tier. Enough of the intimidation by forces who do not want democracy to exist in Nigeria.
The Lordships came to a conclusion that money due to local government shall henceforth be paid directly from the Federation account to the 774 local government and 6 municipal council in Abuja.
Today's judgment is historic and iconic judgment that has restored grassroots democracy, which our emperor governors had dampened for the last 25 years.
Counsels to the governors say they will study the judgment and decide on the next course of action. However, others urge the governors to abide by the judgment.
We will get the certified true copy of the judgment as a body, the body of State Attorneys General of the Federation. We'll study it and then we'll come up with our statement on it.
The judgment also raises concerns on the fate of local development councils created by state governments, especially relating to their funding.
Are there creations of the Constitution? If they are not included in the 774 local government and 6 councils in Abuja.
With local governments now given a free rein to determine the course of development in their areas, citizens have been tasked to be more vigilant and hold them accountable to ensure the proficient management of their funds.
20.6% of federal allocation will be useful in transforming our communities. Other will be needed in the supplement from the states and the federal government. But if we allow the 20.6% federal allocation to go down the drain, as the governors have done, then it will make this judgment meaningless.
The judgment changes the political calculations in many states, as there will be no more excuses for local governments to deny citizens at the grassroots good governance. In Abuja for News Central, Marvelous Obomano.
The meeting between President Bola Tinubu and labor union leaders to finalize the agreement on the minimum wage has been adjourned till next week. The meeting was adjourned after about 1 hour discussions at the presidential villa in Abuja. President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Joe Ajaero, has said the status quo on 250,000 naira as minimum wage stands, while the federal government and organized private sector agreed on 62,000 naira. President Bola Tinubu had said he needs time to consult with other stakeholders before sending the bill for the new minimum wage to the National Assembly. And to unpack this, I am joined by a public policy analyst, Jide Benson. Good morning. Glad to have you join me.
It's okay like this. But you can take your hand.
Mr. Benson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. It's good to have you join me on the news. We understand the meeting between government stakeholders, organized private sector, and also trade union congress resulted in a deadlock. Is this something you anticipated or came as, what are your thoughts on it?
I think that both sides still have a lot of work to do. I never thought that it was going to be a final meeting. This is the first time the president is on the table with Labour and the negotiating team. So far, it has been his aides or the committees appointed to do so. So it's good that the president has finally decided to lead from the front on this issue. There still will be some shifting of grounds, I'm certain, and I'm sure that this is something that the president would like to put behind him before long.
Well, you said you didn't see this as the final meeting. Why is that so?
Oh yes, because the request by Labour is very unlikely to be acceded to by the government. So I think that what the president wanted to do was to give the impression that, look, I am on this now, and let me put face to it so that they know that the memo hasn't gone down the pack of files on my table. So he wanted to hear. Don't forget that the president is a deft man in many ways. So he would have wanted to hear from their horse's mouth and know how to take it further.
What are your thoughts to people or critics saying this negotiation is taking longer than necessary, looking at how things have transpired in terms of reaching a consensus on what the new minimum wage will be?
I quite agree with that. It's taking longer than necessary. And of course, it's part of the deftness that I referred to by the president. And it also tells you that Labour is not well put together, whether it's the TUC or the NLC. What they have done is to have allowed this to get to this point in the first place. Negotiations for a new minimum wage ought to have started at about the time the old one was going to expire. So they waited, it expired, and months after was when they realized, they woke up from what you can refer to as a slumber. So I think they've been caught napping, and it's unlikely that they will leave with the long end of the stick. They declared a 1-week strike. Nigerians rallied around them unusually for the first 2 days. They called it off. It was supposed to have been not even a suspension. I can't remember the word that they used to describe it. And they were meant to go back on the streets or off work within a few days if the government did not accede to their request. And this is months after.
Now,
so it looks like so far the government is waiting.
Now, talking about requests and demands, what's the likelihood demands of Labour will be met by the government? Or do you see the government shifting grounds in terms of the offer made?
Oh yes, I'm certain that the government will shift ground. 62,000 naira is not it. So what they're doing is to drag Labour down as much as possible, and then they can go up. I do not see that the government will remain at 62, but they will not go anywhere near the 250 that Labour has come down to.
All right, thank you so much indeed. We have our ears and eyes on ground to see how things pan out next week, hopefully, in terms of negotiations about the new minimum wage. But thank you so much for your insight on the news. Jide Benson, public affairs analyst. Many thanks once again. Inspired by Kenya's youth-led protests that saw the controversial Finance Bill 2024 withdrawn, with President William Ruto announcing drastic changes in his regime to align with expectations of Kenyans, Youth in Nigeria have become restive on social media, pushing the hashtags End Bad Governance in Nigeria 2024 and End Bad Governance 2024. The youth are calling for protests to call the government of President Adebola to order. They accuse the president of crippling the economy of the country. They also say overtaxation is an issue they want the administration to look into, with many giving opinions about the tax lost through corruption with no meaningful projects implemented by the government. And still on judicial matters, the Court of Justice of the Economic Community of West African State has found the Nigerian government guilty of human rights abuses in its response to the NSAS protests in October of 2020. The ruling issued on July 10th, 2024, mandates the Nigerian government to pay a total of 10 million naira in compensation to each victim named in the suit. Our correspondent, Adebola, tells us more.
It's been 4 years since the nationwide NSAS protest, a movement against police brutality wrapped in a powerful expression of frustration by the citizens, especially the younger population, who demanded systemic change. The protest, which lasted 4 weeks, took a sad turn after a tragic event on October 20, 2020. The Nigerian government initially denied involvement in the shooting, but later acknowledged that soldiers were indeed present at the scene. By December 2021, 3 youth, including Obianuju Catherine, otherwise known as DJ Switch, and 2 others, brought a case before the ECOWAS court against the Federal Republic of Nigeria to seek justice for themselves and those impacted by the violations. 3 years later, in its judgment, the ECOWAS Community Court of Justice found the federal government of Nigeria guilty of human rights abuses in its response to the protest.
The court awarded compensation 2 million naira each for the applicants when it found the Nigerian government in breach of its duty to protect the applicants from torture. It went ahead and added 2 million naira each for the applicants. So they were 2 million naira each at 5 different instances, meaning that each of the applicants was awarded 10 million naira each. So it's a total of 30 million naira each.
Reacting to the court rulings, human rights lawyers have also emphasized the need for the court to uphold the rights of its citizens in the face of abuses and the need to investigate wrongdoings.
It's significant to also send a signal to the Nigerian state that the issue of the protection of rights of citizens and the fundamental duty of states to protect the rights of citizens on all the international human rights instruments that we have ratified is something we cannot undermine. And again, it also expands, and that's very interesting for me when I read the considerations of the court. It also expands the spectrum of the fundamental rights that are valuable for citizens.
The ECOWAS court also held that the internal panel set up by the respondent states to investigate the allegations of abuse at the Lekki toll gate lacked independence and was questionable. In Lagos for News Central, Adebola.
Thank you for staying tuned. Humanitarian stakeholders have called for more efforts to tackle the challenges faced by residents in many rural communities. And the call was made in the nation's capital, Abuja, as 1,000 peace ambassadors converged, pledging to collaborate with government, international agencies and non-governmental organizations to help mobilize resources to support citizens in need. Nigeria's Diaspora Commission has called on citizens in the country from both the public and public sectors of the economy, including those in diaspora, to leverage on available opportunities to move the nation forward. The chairman of the commission, while highlighting the activities lined up for the upcoming 7th National Diaspora Day celebration in Abuja, says the commission hopes to harness the nation's diaspora resources for national development. The theme of the celebration, which is expected to hold from July 24th to 25th, is Japa Phenomena and its implication for national development, and will also constructively look at irregular migration and its implication on Nigerian youths.
National Diaspora Day celebration is a call to action for us all, public and private-driven sectors, government agencies, and the media. This phenomenon demands our collective attention to find ways to leverage the expertise and resources of the diaspora for national development. On our part, as the sole government agency for diaspora affairs for Nigeria, we will host the 7th edition of the National Diaspora Merit Awards after we had a very successful maiden edition last year.
In Rivers State, the Citizens Action for Good Governance has accused some lawmakers known as G60 lawmakers of intentionally misleading the public over the Federal High Court's judgment regarding the Rivers State House of Assembly crisis. The group says that the lawmakers led by Ikenga Ugochinyere intentionally misrepresented the judgment of the High Court over the 27 suspended Rivers State House of Assembly lawmakers, a situation it has found troubling. Amadine Uyi tells us more.
The recent Federal High Court judgment, which dismissed an initial judgment by the Rivers State High Court, which sacked 27 lawmakers in Rivers State House of Assembly, recognizing that their status as lawmakers came as a shocker to many. Some members of parliament from the House of Representatives, known as the G60 lawmakers, were quick to deny that the courts readmitted the 27 lawmakers.
The pro-Wike 27 sacked Rivers lawmakers remains sacked. Their seat remains vacant, as the appeal court today didn't decide on the legality of their decampment and the declaration of their seat vacant.
However, this has not gone down well with several persons and groups in the country, as one group, the Citizens Action for Good Governance, has accused the G60 lawmakers of intentionally misrepresenting the facts and aiming to deceive the public.
Their recent misinterpretation of court of appeal and judgment is a glaring example of this. They deliberately distort the judgment to suit their own narrative, impairing the integrity of the court in the process.
So for an individual who is a product of society to come and misrepresent and criticize the views of learned judges, I mean, it's a mark of disrespect for the judiciary. And nobody, I repeat, will do that in a civilized climate, in a civilized society.
They urge the Rivers State governor to seek a political solution and return back to the initial agreement made with President Bola Tinubu in the interest of peace.
Finding a political, finding solutions, towards resolving the issue, one has to do with going back to status quo antebellum, which is the initial idea espoused by Mr. President, who himself is a Democrat.
The group is calling on stakeholders involved in the Rivers State political crisis to put the people first in the interest of citizens of the state. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Ahead of the Delta State local government elections slated to hold on Saturday, 13th July, the State Commissioner of Police, Olufemi Abaniwanda, has ordered massive deployment across the state to ensure hitch-free elections. And this is coming as many residents of the state show a high level of preparation for the polls. Our correspondent, Austin Azu, tells us more.
Currently at the popular Obogonogo market here in Asaba, where the traders seems to be so aware about the local government elections. However, how prepared are these traders for the local government elections bid to hold on Saturday?
On that very day, I will come out and vote as a citizen of Nigeria. Make people come out, come vote, make everything change. My advice for the election day, make peace reign. Make they do the election with peace, so that the right person may God choose that for us, so that make everything do okay.
My advice is that they do the election free and fair, one. Then number two, not after voting another party. They'll go and give they'll pack all our ballot paper to put in one box.
Well, the State Electoral Commissioner said the peace accord signed by the 10 political parties is a sign to assure residents of the state of a peaceful exercise, even as it warns against any act of violence before, during and after the exercise.
Those who want to come for voting should conduct themselves peacefully, and also that nobody should allow himself or herself to be sponsored, to truncate the system, because anybody that violates the electoral rule or breaches the electoral laws will be promptly prosecuted and then severely dealt with.
In the same vein, the State Commissioner of Police said the command is synergizing with sister agencies, has deployed massive security personnel across the states, all polling units, racks, coalition centers and DSEC offices to ensure a hitch-free exercise. He further maintained that there will be a restriction of vehicular movements from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday, saying only officials on emergency and essential duties, which include accredited election monitors and observers, will be allowed passage. The state police boss also revealed that NAPTEC examination students are also exempted from this restriction of movement order.
When we started these preparations, we decided that it is important and it is imperative that we bring the knowledge and the expertise and the guidance of the police force headquarters. So we wrote to the headquarters, and the headquarters, in its magnanimity, has decided to support us. A number of additional assets, including personnel, have been deployed to us, which we have deployed to strategic places. For every election, you look at the black spots, the hot spots. We have identified this, intelligence gathering is ongoing, and the assets so deployed and from the headquarters has been deployed to these places to support. So we are ready.
About 3,221,600 voters from the INEC voters list are expected to participate in the local government elections on Saturday. In Asaba, for News Central, Austin Azu.
We head to Plateau State, where the Independent Electoral Commission has rolled out activities to mark the 2024 local government elections in this state. According to the chairman of the commission, Planji Sishak, who spoke during a press briefing in Jos, he will do all within the ambit of the law to ensure that all political parties are given equal treatment before, during, and after the election. Our correspondent, Chizoba Anyanwe, tells us more.
The last local government elections in Plateau State held in October 2021, with the All Progressives Congress securing all the seats. Fabian Ntung was the chairman of PLASIEC at the time when the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, was barred from participation for what was termed lack of structure. However, the new chairman of PLASIEC is optimistic that with support from stakeholders, the forthcoming local government polls will be free, fair, and credible.
The Plateau State Independent Electoral Commission, PLASIEC, wishes to notify the leadership of all political parties and the general public that elections shall be conducted in the 17th Local Government Council of Plateau State on Wednesday, 9 October 2024, between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. All political parties and stakeholders are hereby enjoined to give their support and cooperation to PLASIEC so as to organize, undertake, and supervise a free, fair, credible, and transparent local government council election in Plateau State.
With different experiences recorded in the past, ranging from alleged electoral fraud to security issues, some residents of Plateau State have this to say.
I think that it is worthwhile for PLASIEC to intensify enlightenment, education, ensure that the parties are well educated, and they in turn also will educate their followers or the electorate, as the case might be.
The government should be able to convince people concerning election results at the end of the day that whoever they are voting for, that person they have come out for will emerge as a winner, not when the election is going on and results will be announced, bringing out someone different other than their candidates.
With the judgment by the Supreme Court of Nigeria, winners of the local government seats are expected to enjoy full autonomy of their power and funds. It remains to be seen how the 36 states across the Federation, including Plateau, will readjust to the new verdict. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyonwe.
As Nigeria's population continues to increase, analysts are calling on the government to invest in appropriate policies so as to make the country's population an advantage. The country's population currently stands at an estimated 219 million people, and there are concerns that the population growth may get out of hand. Bernard Akede tells us more in this report.
As at the time of compiling this report, the current world population stands at 8,120,708,753, according to the most recent United Nations estimates elaborated by Worldometer. With an estimated population of about 229 million people, Nigeria is the 6th most populous country in the world and the most populous in Africa, a statistic that analysts feel could either be alarming or advantageous to the country.
Nigeria's growing population shouldn't be the cause. I think the government and the people in leadership, if they can harness the dividend of this demographic phenomenon, it will be to the betterment of this country.
Several countries like India and China, who have populations of over 1 billion people, have been able to capitalize on the strength of their numbers and have almost defeated poverty. Analysts believe Nigeria can achieve the same, but only if the right population policies are put in place.
Youthful population supposed to be a very useful resource that we can use, especially in this technological era now. So if we use this population and we channel them properly, train them appropriately, expose them to what is going on in the world, and they are able to make use of the skills that they have acquired, definitely the economy will transform.
The theme for this year's World Population Day is Leave No One Behind, Count Everyone, emphasizing on the need for a census. Unfortunately, the last census conducted in Nigeria was in 2006, and it is believed that part of the country's developmental challenges is as a result of lack of accurate population data.
Look at what is going on in Nigeria now in terms of the issue of food insecurity. We have the problem in our health sector. We have issues in our educational sector. We have issues in terms of even management of our cities and many other things that you see. And this happens to still boil down to the fact that we don't have the figures.
By 2050, it is forecast that the population of Nigeria will grow to over 377 million people. With the kind of current economic challenges faced by the country, analysts warn that only the right policies will make such population figures an advantage to the country's growth. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
Burkina Faso's junta leader has accused neighboring Ivory Coast and Benin of trying to destabilize the country amid diplomatic tensions in West Africa. On Saturday, the military leaders ruling Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger entered a new confederation severing ties with regional bloc ECOWAS, an organization they accuse of being manipulated by France, their former colonial ruler. In a speech lasting more than 90 minutes, Captain Ibrahim Traoré outlined the major directions he wanted to take the country over the next 5 years. Traoré, who has made the sovereignty of his country a cardinal point of his governance and turned his back on France, criticized Ivory Coast for still being an ally of Paris. Over 230 babies have been born with HIV in Gauteng in the first 6 months of the year, despite the fact that drugs to stop the mother-to-child transmission of HIV have been available for the past 25 years. 40 of those children were born in the Twashwene district, And South Africa has one of the most remarkable public health successes of the last decade in Southern Africa, which has been the reduction in the number of babies born with HIV. This was achieved through the provision of antiretroviral therapy to pregnant and breastfeeding women living with HIV. However, a recent report shows that this has decreased, with at least 30% of pregnant women in South Africa having HIV and their infants are exposed to both HIV and antiretroviral drugs during pregnancy and breastfeeding. And to unpack this, I am joined by TAC Gauteng Provincial Chairperson, Monwabisi Sidwell Mbasa. Good morning. Glad to have you join me on the news.
Morning, ma'am, and I would like to extend my greetings to your viewers as well.
All right, let's kick off. What are the most common factors contributing to the high rate of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, particularly in Gauteng?
Are multi-layered, and I will try very quickly to unpack that for you. One are issues to gender-based violence. Those are social issues whereby a woman will be pregnant and the boyfriend or the father or their husband would want to force himself onto the woman, and you find that has been having multiple partners. And that creates a problem during that particular period, is what gets us to where we are. Secondly, within the system now, you find that, in other healthcare facilities, there are shortages of staff, long waiting times. Therefore, women, they tend not to go to the clinics, and they decide now not to actually make, those consistent visits to the clinics. And related to that is that at times they meet, very where they would be given or subjected to bad staff attitude. So those are the issues those are the factors that we have identified. And with respect to this issue that we have now, as activists, we'll need to actually do our campaign to ensure that at least women, especially those who are pregnant, are being actually subjected to a much more, I would say, human and dignified, process of accessing services.
It's interesting you touched on those exposed to these as women, who undergo gender-based violence. You also talked about those who present themselves late, in the hospitals. How about other demographics? Which other demographics of mothers are at risk, of transmitting HIV to their children? I'm looking at it from a point of view of, is it the younger population or the older population?
It is the younger population, young people between the ages of 15 to 24, even older, around to middle age, if you like. And then you also have within that, we've got people whom we call key and vulnerable populations, which mean they could be sex workers or former sex workers, and also people of transgender as well. They are subjected to mistreatment at times and be stigmatized at times. So those are people who will all, from time to time, will actually have that lethargy of not wanting to present themselves in the healthcare facilities, and because of such social issues that actually prevents them to be able to visit clinics, much more consistently.
I'm tempted to ask you what reforms or measures are being made to help stem the tide of this transmission from mother to child. What efforts are being made whatsoever to orientate or sensitize people to prevent a prevalence of this issue?
The first thing that needs to happen, of which has been done for quite some time, is that it's awareness around HIV. Two, there's this concerted effort that needs to be done, of which it has been done. It has been doing something that has been done for quite some time. I will just give you a very simple scenario. Around 2001, pregnant women were given Naverapine through the organization that I'm leading, which took government to court to force government and ensure that they procure ARVs and Naverapine to give to pregnant women to try and arrest this thing of mother-to-child transmission. And these are some of the things that needs to be done now to ensure that at least all pregnant women in the beginning of their pregnancy period, at least they must be rolled out on pre-exposure prophylaxis in case if during the pregnancy, even post-pregnancy, when they have to engage in the bedroom activities, at least we should be guaranteed that those women, those mothers are on treatment which prevents them from contracting HIV so that it cannot be transmitted to the unborn child. And also to ensure that those who are already HIV positive are actually put on treatment on ARVs to ensure that their viral load is that cannot be transmissible to the unborn child as well. So those are the measures that needs to be done. That means they require civil society in the form of ourselves to ensure that government prioritize that particular approach.
Indeed, we hope all of these measures are adhered to so we can have a safe environment, for mother and child. Thank you so much for your perspective on the news. Monwa BC Siduwell, many thanks for your insights.
Thank you so kindly. It's a pleasure for this opportunity. We appreciate it.
A Libyan political activist who was abducted by an unknown armed group in western Libya has been released. Al-Mutsali Al-Rebi was released a day after the United Nations said it was deeply concerned about his abduction. Al-Rebi was released after calls from the UN mission in Libya and the embassies of France and the United States, as well as a large online campaign demanding his release. Photographs shared on social media on Thursday show the activist walking on the streets of Misrati. Rescue operations are ongoing as record rain struck southwest China during a summer of extreme weather. 6 people were killed after torrential downpours struck Dianjiang County near the megacity of Chongqing from Wednesday night to Thursday. Xinhua said one of the people had perished after a house collapsed and at least 3 had been caught in a landslide. Nearly 7,000 people have been affected by a rainstorm and 170 have been told to evacuate. U.S. President Joe Biden has acknowledged concerns over his mental capacity, saying he's focused on reassuring Democrats amid growing calls for his pullout from November's presidential election. Biden made remarks at the end of the NATO summit held in Washington. Shortly after he finished speaking, Connecticut Congressman Jim Himes, the top-ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, called on Biden to step down from the campaign. Biden said he would not leave the race unless polls showed him that he had no chance of winning against Trump, even if they show that Harris' chances in the election were better than his. And for business stories, let's connect with the business desk.
In business news, Nigeria's oil regulator has reached an agreement with producers to allow the sale of crude to domestic refiners at market prices, resolving a supply dispute that strained relations with international oil companies. Nigeria currently relies on fuel import due to limited refining capacity, but the operational Dangote refinery, with a capacity of 650,000 barrels per day, aims to make the country self-sufficient and even enable exports. The agreement addresses concerns raised by the Dangote refinery about excessive premiums and limited supplies from oil majors. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, emphasized the importance of domestic refining and pledged to prevent price triangulation and profit sharing. The regulator called for transparent monthly price quotes to balance upstream development and a sustainable domestic energy supply chain. Uganda plans to boost its foreign exchange reserves by purchasing domestic gold, following similar strategies by other African nations. The Bank of Uganda will buy bullion directly from local artisanal miners, reducing the need for raw gold imports. This aligns with Nigeria's proposal to strengthen reserves through domestic gold purchases, while Zimbabwe has introduced a gold-backed currency. Ghana mandates that major miners sell refined gold to the central bank. Despite prudent monetary policies, Uganda's economy faces challenges due to anti-LGBTQ legislation and declining reserves. The gold purchase program aims to support artisanal miners and enhance foreign currency reserves. However, Uganda currently has limited mining operations, though plans for a new refinery are underway. Concerns exist regarding illicit gold smuggling from the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. And finally, the High State Council, HSC, based in Tripoli, Libya, has rejected a budget approved by the parliament in Benghazi. citing concerns of further division and wastage of public funds. Council head Mohammed Takala conveyed the rejection in a letter sent House of Representatives Speaker Aguila Saleh. The House approved 2 separate budgets, one worth 90 billion Libyan dinars in April and an additional budget of 88 billion Libyan dinars. The budget is for the Benghazi-based government led by Osama Hamad, who came to power in March 2023 and is aligned with military commander Khalifa Haftar. The Council criticized the House's persistent transgressions and called for a challenge against any laws issued in violation.
In sports, a clutch of Super Falcons legends including goalkeeper Precious Dede, defender Joy Jegede and pacey forward Vera Okolo are among the 30 women of the CAF C coaching course. The ex-internationals were embarking on the first ever CAF C coaching course organized by the Nigeria Football Federation exclusively for women, with the first model to run from 15th to 25th July at the NFF FIFA Technical Center inside the MKO Abiola National Stadium in Abuja. A total of 30 coaches are expected, with preference having been given to retired football players and women who are currently in the coaching business but do not possess coaching licenses. NFF Technical Director, Coach Augustine Eguavon, said on Thursday that the program is in 3 months. It's in 3 models. The Confederation of African Football has announced a schedule for the 2024-25 African Schools Football Championship. And this youth tournament will involve 6 zonal unions beginning in November 2024. Niger will host the WAFU Zone B Championship. Tanzania will hold the CECAFA version, and Gabon will host UNIFAC. Namibia has been selected for COSAFA, while Egypt will host UNAF. Gambia will organize WAFU Zone A. The championship kicks off with WAFU A from the 11th to the 17th of November, followed by CECAFA and UNIFAC from the 2nd to the 8th of December. COSAFA in late November to December, UNAF from the 14th to 20th of December, and WAFU B from the 18th to 24th of November, culminating in the continental phase scheduled for 28th of April to 4th of May 2025. And that's all on the news. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Supreme Court grants full financial autonomy to local governments in Nigeria. Abducted Libyan political activist Al-Rabi regains freedom. Over 200 babies born with HIV in South Africa's Gauteng province. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen, and do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.